we do have college football. In fact, I was going to give my college football picks because they're just 4 picks anyways. Last week, 1, 2, and 1. Come on. And it was the Nebraska game that gave me the push. 7 points. Nebraska wins 14-17. A win nonetheless. Kind of explaining it the same way. You know what? I expect them to stay within that margin, but I think Nebraska will still win. Well, they pushed the margin, and Nebraska still won at home. So that looks good from that standpoint. But this week, just give a quick 4. No long, drawn-out anything. I'm taking Alabama plus 21 against South Carolina only because the porous South Carolina offense.
You mean minus 21?
Minus 20. Yeah, right. I'm taking South Carolina to be minus. I'm taking Alabama minus 21. And Lenore Sellers is just a terrible quarterback, and that's pretty much all I really have to say about that. Alabama coming with that revenge. They got something to prove because they need someone to push the air on because of what happened in Nashville last week, and their fans certainly want to see something. And I think they can put up the 21 points. Even if it's 21-0, I'll take the push. If it's 22, 24, whatever, they're going to play really hard this time around. Even though South Carolina does have that good defense, the reason why I took them to at least with Ole Miss last week to stay within the margin, which they did not do. And then now I'll go with Pittsburgh, minus 3.5 against California. California lost that huge disappointing game against Miami last week in California. Those feelings are still hurt. Going over to Pittsburgh, who's not getting a lot of credit, but Pittsburgh is playing well this year. Eli Holstein, the former Alabama quarterback, transferred to Pittsburgh, started the season off with 3 straight 300-plus yard games, missed out the next game, but then last week, stepped up again, had over 380 yards. So he's certainly coming to win some games this time around. I think he can win at home. I think they should win by double digits, to believe it or not. And I'm not taking anything away from Cal. I'm just thinking their feelings are hurt after what happened last week against Miami. And then USC against Penn State. I'm taking USC plus 5. The underdog once again. Miller Moss isn't anything special, but he's good for what they're doing, even though he's helping them lose along the way. 9 touchdowns, 4 interceptions on the year, but he throws for pretty good yardage. Zach Branch, I think, can be the difference maker, even though he's one of the receivers that only has like 10, 11 yards per reception. His special teams work could be the difference there. I'm still not sold on Penn State anyway. Drew Allard has a nice completion percentage. He's thrown 3 touchdowns, twice this season so far. I expect more from him based on the hype that's coming. And to me, he's just not doing anything special this year. Penn State fans may not agree, but I'm going to take USC at home plus 5 against Penn State. And then Ohio State, I'm giving the 3. Minus 3 against Oregon in Eugene. That's the game I would have been at this year if I would have, gone to the game, but other things came up from going to that game. But I'll make
I'd be there if I was going.
Yeah, right? I'm going. Well, I made up for it. I'm going down to Miami, depending on how the weather is, going to Miami, watching the Florida State game nonetheless. But Will Howard, he hasn't had to do much this year, so I don't look at his numbers and say, man, he's not doing anything. Well, he only had 209 yards in the last game, but he's threw 4 touchdowns. Jeremiah Smith, I think the nation finally is going to get a chance to see who he is. The reason why we talk about Ryan Williams being one of these freshman wide receivers, freshman players, and he's just absolutely dominant because he's in the limelight most of the time, and he gets the plays thrown to him by a Heisman Trophy candidate in Jalen Moreau for Alabama, and being at Alabama doesn't hurt at all. It doesn't hurt to be at Ohio State either, but they hadn't played anyone until last week. They played against Iowa. Iowa defensively is great. Their offense is absolutely putrid, but Jeremiah Smith is a name you're going to be able to see nationally this time around. Even though you heard him, you'll get a chance to see him this time. And Dylan Gabriel, the quarterback for Oregon, I don't believe in him too much at all. He's throwing 3 interceptions in the last 2 games against Michigan State and UCLA. I don't think that's impressive. Then finally, I'm going to jump on the bandwagon of a team I picked against last week. Syracuse, 3.5 against North Carolina State. Kyle McCord from the eyeball test is legit. I didn't think that he'd gotten much better than he was when he was at Ohio State. He's going to Syracuse. Fran Brown has him playing he's playing a lot better than I would have expected. And he threw 63 passes against UNLV in Las Vegas, won the game. But Trevor Pena, the little receiver they have, he's not literally 6 feet, but he's small. He's the most reliable receiver they have right now. Anytime you throw it to him, he tries to make an effort to catch the ball. Targeted 42 times, caught it 34 times, has 5 touchdowns, and there you go. So to recap a little bit, Alabama minus 21, South Carolina, Pittsburgh minus 3.5 against California, USC plus 5 against Penn State in California, Ohio State giving 3 to Oregon, and then Syracuse 3.5 against North Carolina State at North Carolina State. There you go.